Well, welcome everybody. I see a bunch of new faces here, which is fantastic. I'm Dr. Allen, for those of you who this is your first visit out with us. And basically, the class that we have here tonight, we call it our Habits of Health class. This is actually week 7. If this is your first time coming in, don't worry about it, because all these different habits, they don't necessarily build upon each other. You know, they all tie together. They're all things that we need to learn. So you don't necessarily have to know weeks 1 through 6 to be able to understand what we talk about tonight here with week number 7. But ultimately, our whole goal is habits are what make us who we are. Okay, we typically, habits are things that we do without even thinking about. They're things that we acquire over time. They're things that, we might even be brought up and we learn it growing up. When we're young, our bodies seem to be pretty resilient at, we can eat things that we certainly can't eat now and not suffer for. So they're habits that we kind of develop over time. And one of those, I would say probably one of the biggest things is when we become old enough to make our own decisions and to buy our own food and to do the things we want to do. It makes it really easy to go ahead and get those things that we want, the things that taste good to us, the things that we enjoy. So, basically what we're talking about here with these Habits of Health classes, we have a 12-week program that we go through, are the different habits that no matter what program you use to get healthy and to get to a healthy weight, you have to learn the right habits to be able to maintain it. And as a matter of fact, if you think about your habits, it's hard. It can be very difficult to, change habits or change things that you've done over a long time. So our goal is, as we go through these, to help identify some of those bad habits and figure out how to replace them with better habits. And the great thing about them is when you do something the right way enough times, all of a sudden you become real good at it. And it becomes very easy to you. Whereas at one time it may have been very difficult, it actually can become very easy for you. And it's just a matter of learning to do something a little bit different. So, up till now, we've gone through, the very first few weeks of the habits we talk about are literally understanding how much habits affect who we are and how we can identify those and start changing them. We start talking a little bit about how to structure ourselves to be able to not just, set a goal of going on a diet and losing weight, but okay, I do want to get to a healthy weight, but I want to be a different person when I get there. I don't want to get to a healthy weight and then say I'm done, and then like 85% of the population put my weight back on. If you're going to go to the effort of getting healthy, we want to make sure that we're doing the right things afterward to stay there. If we're going to go to this effort and to put so much into it, don't we all want to stay there once we get there? So that's kind of our goal in these Habits of Health classes. And you're welcome to come out as many times as you need. There are people that have been through these probably at least three times I think this is the 3rd or 4th time through that we've done the classes, and 5th time through, I'm losing count. But there are people that have been here from the beginning, and I think it's wonderful because I've been teaching them for this long, and I still learn all the time better ways to make myself better, to be able to kind of take it to the next level. Because, there are people who may be at a healthy weight, but really aren't healthy. We all know people who appear to be at a pretty healthy weight, but we know they eat awful. They don't, they have terrible habits. Our goal is to be able, no matter where you're at, you can always be a little bit healthier. And no matter how far you think you have slipped down the path to unhealthy, we can always come back to a healthy body. That's one of the fantastic things about our body is as soon as we start doing the right things, it starts responding. We start feeling a difference. Anyone who's been on the program at all notices within a week to 2 weeks a difference in how they feel. And it's because your body responds that quickly in a matter of days. In fact, from when you first commit and start eating the right way and start doing the right things, our bodies start changing for the better. So rest assured, and just so you know, the days or the weeks that you're doing the program, and let's say you feel like, oh crud, I plateaued this week, or I've plateaued the last week and a half, but you've been very true to the program, rest assured that you are still getting healthier. Whether the scale says you are or not, that's irrelevant. If you are making the healthy choices, you are getting healthier. And sometimes that getting healthier is right up here. Getting your head, keeping your head in the game, keeping your head committed to what we want to do. So the last few weeks, we've talked a little bit about, how we start eating the food that we're bringing in, how the food affects what we're doing, affects what we want to eat, whether we're storing energy or not. This week, we're actually, eating, for weight control, implementing the 9-inch plate, that's kind of how once we get to where we want to be, the idea is to understand that we don't need to fill a big plate like this of food. When we learn how to start eating correctly, really, if we're eating frequently, all we need to have is a small 9-inch plate of food for dinner, and we will have more than enough fuel to fuel our bodies and to stay healthy. And then understanding how to control our energy, and again, the glycemic index has a lot to do with how our bodies manage the fuel that we put in, whether it be carbohydrates, protein, fats, and how that plays a part in whether we're storing or burning fat. And then how to control the fuel, how to control hunger. And then this week, we are actually going to get into, basically our balancing energy. And there's a few things that I want, right at the beginning of this, I kind of want to point a few things out. This here is kind of talking about energy balance. We all have heard, getting to a healthy weight is about calories in, calories out, right? We've all heard that if you're taking in more calories than you're burning, then you're gonna put on weight. If you're burning more calories than you're taking in, you're gonna lose weight. And to a certain degree, that is true. However, if you were to kind of look at, if you were counting calories that way, and it was really that important, the whole calories, we would, basically what it comes down to is this, I'll kind of explain it. If you did not match your diet within about 20 to 30 calories a day, from the calories you burn to the calories you consume, over the course of 10 to 15 years, you would either be extremely 40 pounds or more overweight, or you would be emaciated. You would be super, super skinny. As far as the math goes, because the math goes both ways. If we're, and so if you looked at the math of it, that's impossible to do. It's impossible. In fact, probably one of the greatest phenomena is the fact that given how much our variety of what we're doing each day changes and the different things we eat, the fact that we can maintain a normal weight or maintain weight at all is kind of a miracle. So we're going to some degree, you do have to watch what you're putting in. But what's more important, we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, is what you're putting in and how it affects you. And so to do that, we do have to understand a few things. To be able to balance energy and to kind of keep ourselves in the right ballpark, we have to understand that, our energy expenditure, what are we putting out every day? How much am I doing? How much energy am I burning, so I have an idea of what I need to be taking in. And to do that, we're going to talk a little bit about calculating it. The components are your basal metabolic rate, the thermic effect of food, and your physical activity level. Those are pretty much the three things that make up your total energy expenditure. So, and then we want to understand, how do we change it? How do we make it better? And so we're going to talk a little bit about all these. So, honestly, I threw a few of these formulas in here to calculate your total energy. It's in Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health book. If you like doing math, please, take the formula, figure it out for yourself. Otherwise, go to the internet. There are some fantastic calculators that you in a matter of seconds can punch in what you do during the day, and it will tell you a pretty good ballpark of what your energy expenditure is. MyTSFL.com is a fantastic one to go to. But there are plenty of them out there. So unless you just love math, I would recommend the little calculators. They're certainly much, much easier. So again, this is just kind of breaking it down here. So if our total energy is this, our BMR, the food that we eat, and then our activity level is what kind of makes that up. And if you look, the majority of this total energy is made up from our basal metabolic rate. And our BMR is the energy it takes for us to basically be, our heart to beat, our lungs to breathe, laying in a total restful state, doing absolutely nothing. So the majority of the energy we burn through the day is doing nothing. However, there are ways. Wouldn't you like to be able to burn more energy doing absolutely nothing? All right, there's a way of doing that. It takes some work. It takes building some muscle and eating the right way and doing things the right way, but you will actually improve your body's ability to burn energy even at rest. So we're going to talk a little bit about all of those things. Again, more formulas. Use the calculators. Makes a lot more sense to calculate your physical activity. We need to understand all of these things, and those calculators will do that for you. So the thermic effect of food is, did you know that what we eat can, there's certain things we can eat that actually take more energy to break down, and some things that take almost no energy at all. And so understanding what those things are and making sure we're eating the things that require more energy to break down, those are good things to understand and know. So, all right, so let's talk about increasing our total energy expenditure. So if we look at this here, the difference, if we're talking about our physical activity, so exercise is pretty much the stuff that we plan. Going to the gym, and really it's the stuff that we do for short periods. Even if we're really good at exercising and we're working out 5 or 6 days a week, let's just say, even if you worked out 5 days a week, which, elite athletes work out probably 5 days a week on average. And even if you put in, let's just say, really long workouts, 2 hours for each workout, you're looking at 10 hours of your week that you're focusing on with this activity. It's a very good thing to do, but there's a whole, if you look here, there's 168 hours in the week. There's a whole lot of time that you can learn how to use and burn energy more rapidly, more efficiently, and to use that to your advantage of getting healthy. So there's a lot of hours that we want to make sure you understand how to use to your ultimate benefit. So again, our BMR representing the majority of the energy that we burn, it can be changed. Okay, it kind of seems like that might be something that you don't have to put a lot of energy into. It can absolutely be changed. The two muscles or the two organs in our body that burn most of that energy are our muscles and our brains. So literally learning new things with your mind, not only is it very good for your mind, it actually burns more calories. Doing things differently burns more calories because it requires you to focus more and pay more attention to what you're doing. Sarcopenia of aging, big word here. Basically, it's like osteoporosis of your muscles. It's your muscles, they start atrophying, they start kind of wasting away, you become a little bit weaker, you lose muscle mass. And basically what that's doing is, you're just, as your muscle mass decreases, typically your metabolism starts getting slower and slower and slower. So think about, as we think about that, we want to make sure we're paying attention to what we can do to maintain that. And matter of fact, beginning at age 20, if we are not living correctly, if we're not eating correctly, we lose about a pound of muscle per year. Okay, kind of scary, right? And the problem is when we look at where we're at and our weight, this is part of the problem with being married to that number on the scale, because the numbers kind of lie. We might think of, hey, years ago when I weighed 165 pounds, man, I looked good. I was lean and mean, and I was feeling great. But 30 years down the road, I might only be 30 pounds heavier, but if I haven't been living correctly, I have a lot less muscle mass and a lot more fat replacing it. So those are the kind of things we want to look at. We want to get you to a healthy weight, but we want to also help everyone learn and understand that how important it is for us to work on building muscle, building endurance, building our heart muscle, our lungs, our ability to oxygenate our blood. So again, when we lose our muscle, typically it's replaced with fat. That's kind of an unfortunate side effect. And then also, it just goes to say, as we get heavier, typically it's going to, bring us closer to diabetes and other diseases that follow. Unlike certain parts of our body, our bones, our immune system, lungs, other organs, our muscles are something that we can change a great deal as far as how much energy we're able to burn. So, and I know this is kind of, this is a little bit, this particular lesson is a little bit kind of scholastic-like, but this is good stuff to understand, albeit maybe not that exciting. It's good stuff to understand as far as what we can do and how much. I mean, look at this right here. So your muscle, so most of that, 75% of this variation can come from your muscle mass. There's a tremendous amount that having extra lean muscle can do for increasing the amount of energy that you're burning. Our brains. I love this picture because, as I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier, is learning to do new things is not only great for your brain, but it allows us to burn more energy. And I'm not talking, it's not like you're going to start breaking a sweat from thinking. If you are, there might be other things going on. But it's not a bad thing for you to learn new things. Our minds are considered plastic. In fact, if you look at if you talk to neuroscientists, they say that our minds are very plastic in nature, meaning that the plasticity there, we can always create new neurological pathways, learning new things. Those are actually the exercises that will help you prevent things like dementia, Alzheimer's. It'll help prevent that atrophy of your brain. The old adage of if you don't use it, you lose it is literally true in both the way you think as well as physically speaking. When you don't use it, you do lose it. I realize that if you have dementia and you don't remember anything, you don't have to worry so much. It's everyone else that has to deal with it. So who knows? Maybe it's not that bad. But I'm thinking it's probably better to know, have your wits about you and know what you're doing. So, the things that you can do, honestly think about. I'm not saying you have to go learn a new language. It would be a great thing, learning a new language, learning to do something new. You could do things as simple as eating with your non-dominant hand. Washing, just instead of brushing your hair with your dominant hand, start learning to brush your hair with your other hand. Taking a different route home from time to time. Exploring a little bit. Doing things differently that require you to think and use some logic to kind of work through it. There's even a show now, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Brain Games, that's it. I just kind of found it the other day on TV and I'm like, this is pretty darn cool. There are plenty of games you can do that are wonderful for your mind. Teaches you, it keeps you sharp, keeps you, I don't know about it, you guys, I am awful with names. Awful. I can remember faces. I haven't treated patients really in a few years, but I bump into patients still, and I can remember what I treated, where it hurt, I can remember everything about them. I don't know their name. I can't remember their name to save my life, but I can tell you exactly what was wrong with their body. So, there are things that we can do to actually improve that. The first, when I was in high school and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do for a living, I went to the Career Center once, and I'll never forget this. There was a guy in there, and I'm pretty sure he was representing the military. We were doing some little test to kind of see aptitude type test. And this guy came in, he was doing a presentation there was probably 40 kids in there. And when we walked in the door, he met us and shook our hand, and he's like, so you are, and we'd tell him our name, he'd check us off, we'd go sit down. And throughout this presentation, he called on every single person in that class and said, he's like, so Joe, he's like, tell me this. He would ask, he knew their first and last name. And I was just like, and at the very end of class, he hadn't called my name. And a buddy of mine had to leave a little bit earlier, a buddy that I came in with. He had to leave the presentation early, but he says, if there's anyone in here who I haven't called their name, raise your hand, and if I don't remember it, I'll give you $5. And I was like, sweet, he hadn't called my name. So I raised my hand, and he's like, oh, your buddy and your friend who had to leave early was Richard. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, And there are ways of training your brains to do amazing things. And he actually said, I can teach every one of you to do exactly what I'm doing right here. I wish to heck I would have learned it because it would have served me well. But, there are things you can do. I've seen programs where mathematicians can do huge mathematic problems in their mind faster than people can do them on calculators. And, that's pretty awesome. Our minds, there's a lot we can do, so use them. Find the fun thing. They're really, that brain games and some of those things that they have are fantastic ways to do it. Utilize them. They're great tools out there. And like I said, who knows, maybe you could break a sweat if you really get to thinking heavy, So the thermic effect of food. Now food is, again, what we eat is what we want to eat. When we eat junk, what do we crave more of? Junk. And it's because our body, we train our body to, in these different cycles of how our energy goes up and goes down. And the food that, if you think about food as fuel, like fuel for a fire, okay, anyone ever gone camping, and now this is probably more for guys or young, think back when you were a boy, and thrown tumbleweeds into a fire. Tumbleweeds go up like gasoline. They'll flash and then they're done. You won't have any eyebrows when you're done playing with it, but they burn really hot and then they burn out. And if you think of certain foods, processed foods, the highly refined flours and sugars and things that are very readily available in our diet are just like that. It's like throwing gasoline in a fire. They flame up really big and they go out really fast. And so what happens is when we eat a bunch of stuff, we use what we can, the rest we store, and then all of a sudden we have this sugar low where we have no energy, we're wiped out, we just ate but we're tired and ready for a nap, and it's because of what we ate. The thermic effect of food is literally eating the right things can cause us to burn more calories, can cause us to feel full longer. It can cause us to, want to eat those types of foods as opposed to the highly refined stuff that, again, is so prevalent in our culture. There are things like eating lean protein. When we eat protein, like I mentioned, it takes more energy for our body to break down protein. Plus, we feel full for much longer. And when we feel full, obviously we're not going to overeat. We're going to feel good and have good satiety. Drinking cold water. When you drink ice water, it actually burns more calories for you to utilize that water in your body. Your body has to warm it up before it can actually use it. So myself, I can't stand drinking tepid water. So that one's really easy for me to do. Eating, there are certain foods that will actually cause you to burn more energy. And a lot of them, green tea, I don't like tea in any way, shape, or form. But if you do, green tea is fantastic. Capsaicin, so red peppers, mustard, ginger, cinnamon. These are all spices and herbs and spices that are actually great at helping you burn energy or burn calories. So learn how to spice your food. You learn how to use seasons to make your food taste good as well as help you be healthy. There are different, selenium is a mineral or a vitamin that is found, I want to say the big, what are those big nuts? The Brazil nuts. All I can think of is not the right way to call that nut. So I'm not. So the Brazil nuts are a fantastic way to get selenium, chromium. So these are just different vitamins and minerals that are great at helping us burn calories. Caffeine. Now caffeine is kind of a catch-22. A little bit of caffeine can help raise your metabolism. A lot of caffeine can actually have the reverse effect and not help you burn calories. Not to mention, part of one of our upcoming weeks is we talk about sleep and how much sleep plays a part in us getting healthy and getting to a healthy weight and maintaining a healthy weight. So, caffeine stays in our system a little bit. And even though you might be able to fall asleep, it probably will affect with how deep of a sleep that you actually get into. So, our physical activity level, again, this is one of the things. When we start getting people on the program, we really don't talk much about exercise at all. In fact, we don't encourage exercise for the first 3 to 4 weeks. And when we do start implementing exercise, it's very slow. We want people to understand that it's much easier to learn how to start controlling what we're eating than it is to try to burn off those calories. In fact, probably one of the quickest reasons people plateau on the program is because they lose some weight really quickly initially, and then all of a sudden they're like, man, I'll bet you if I start exercising, I can lose twice that much next week if I start. And what it does is it puts the brakes on their weight loss. That's probably one of the top reasons why people actually plateau is they get doing too much too soon, and their body's not ready for it. So, basically, what we want to do here is just work on. We want to start ramping things up slowly. What are the things that you can do to gradually increase the energy that you're putting out, the activity level that you have now? In fact, when we talk about exercise as one of the habits of health to be able to maintain your weight, we're not even necessarily talking about hitting the gym or things like that. We're talking about increasing your activity from what you did before. Get out and move more. Get out and do more things. Go and enjoy the outdoors. The weather's finally becoming conducive to that, so take advantage of it. And when we talk about our activity level, there's really two different things. We've got our exercise, which is the exercise activity, the calories we burn through planned exercise, and then this is the non-exercise activity. Okay, and again, that's the one when you think about that 168 hours in the week, there are 160 some odd hours that there are things minus our sleeping time, but there are things that we can be doing to burn more energy. Think about some of the people that are the fidgeters. You see those people that they're sitting there bouncing all the time. They're always moving, tapping their foot, pacing. You can't hardly keep them still. Typically, they're fairly lean. They burn you actually. While albeit not a tremendous amount of calories, a small amount of calories on a regular basis makes a big difference over time. So, and basically this is the stuff that we want to help people and we'll kind of go over some ways to increase that in a very easy way. It's not hard to do that. This here is kind of sad. These are just some things to understand. When it comes to physical activity and exercise, the sad truth is 60% of us get no regular physical activity. 25% get no activity at all. 50% of those who begin exercise quit within 6 months. Now, this one right here, the one I was just talking about, more often than not, people begin exercise because they want to lose weight. Okay, like we talked about at the very beginning, people start exercising because they're like, I need to start exercising so I can trim down. Exercise is wonderful for your health. However, it is a very ineffective way to lose weight. And again, they're kind of two competing things going on in our bodies when we are trying to lose. If we're trying to lose weight, we're trying to bring our calories down and start burning some of that excess energy that we have stored in our fat. When we are trying to exercise, we are demanding more from our body, and naturally our body wants to eat. And so now we have to really ramp up our willpower because we're trying to we're willing ourselves to exercise. We're willing ourselves to stay on eat the right foods. Where in time, what happens if you're not, it's kind of like likening it to being an alcoholic and hanging out with your buddies at the bar. Oh, I'm just having a Coke every time, but you're hanging out at the bar all the time. What's going to happen is in time, something's going to happen where you just don't have the willpower that day, and you're going to give in. And so the same thing when it comes to exercise. That's kind of that's what you're juggling when it comes to trying to lose weight with exercise. That's why we focus on let's learn how to start eating correctly, because we can see much bigger difference and a much better result much faster. So, moving on, after a year, most exercise 90% of our exercise equipment is nothing but a coat rack, something to hang our towels on or laundry. And then basically, if you look at it, the data suggests that unless you have gotten your weight under control, increased flexibility, developed more active lifestyle, and organized your daily choices to support health, exercise is not likely to work. In fact, if you really do dive into medical literature, which I don't recommend ever, it has got to be the worst reading on the planet. But if you get into medical literature, that basic, the philosophy of exercising more, eating less has been around since the 1800s. And all the clinical research out there says at best it's not conclusive that it really works at all. There's nothing that suggests that it's very effective at all. So, you're welcome to go dive into the medical literature, but it really is not that exciting. Plus, it's kind of like reading a foreign language. So, our strategies that we like to talk about, this is just things for you to kind of keep on the forefront of your mind, to start increasing your motion. Okay, start doing the little things that'll start bumping up the calories you burn each day. We call it our 6 S's of success. You can find this in Dr. Anderson's book, The Habits of Health. But stance, okay, the first thing we talk, our stance, our posture. It takes more energy to stand up nice and tall than it does to just kind of slump, okay? And we want to, use that. And also standing in general, if there are things that you can do standing, do it. It's a great thing for you to, you use more muscles to stand up than you do to sit down. To give you one quick study, they did a study years ago where they took 2 groups of individuals. They were both self-professed couch potatoes. One of the group of people were overweight couch potatoes. The other group were in a healthy weight couch potatoes. And what they did was they put these motion sensors on both groups of individuals and tracked them over the course of a couple days. And what they found was over the course of that time that the slender sedentary people were up and about moving around 2.5 hours a day more than those who were overweight. Okay, so they weren't at the gym. They were just up moving 2.5 hours a day more than the heavier sedentary individuals. So once again, I don't recommend standing until you lose all your weight or anything like that, but as far as a way of maintaining a nice healthy weight, stance and standing play a huge part of that. So, set yourself up for success. Again, if you have workstations at home, make sure that they're set up to where you can do them standing as well as sitting. You don't have to stand all the time, but to be able to go between the two is a very good thing. In fact, there's a lot of the ergonomic specialists, for a lot of different corporations where they will set people up to where they can either stand or sit. And that's just based upon their research that people do better. Strolling, wandering around. I don't know how many of you have met Brian Drollinger, who is the gentleman who introduced the program to me many years ago. He'll be here later, but if you've ever watched him on the phone, he paces like his wife is in the delivery room. He'll wear a hole in the carpet, walking back and forth. Just so, stroll. If you can talk while you're on the phone, do it. if there are things that you can do and stroll around, just kind of wander, do it. You're going to burn a little bit of extra energy. Taking stairs when you can, that just makes sense. It takes a lot more energy to walk up the stairs than it does to hop on an escalator or something like that. Samba is turn on the music. When you're doing activities, turn up some music, because I don't know if anyone's ever gone jogging with headphones on, listening to the radio, and noticed that your pace kind of goes along with the different songs that you might be listening to. It might be one song, all of a sudden you're like, man, I am so winded and tired, and it's because it's got a nice fast beat to it. So just understand, that'll kind of keep you moving. It keeps a little snap in your step. And then switch is kind of what I was talking about earlier with learn how to do things differently. Change, learn how to do things with your non-dominant hand. Learn how to do things differently, and you'll start burning a few more calories from your mind. You're going to burn more calories using more muscle. In future weeks, we're going to talk more specific. In fact, I think it's next week. Isn't it next week? Next week we talk more specifically about the exercise itself, planned exercise. Today we're talking more generally about just that non-exercise activity. So basically the whole goal is this. The whole reason we're talking, this is not, you're not going to lose a tremendous amount of weight just doing this and not focusing on anything else. However, when you do learn how to start eating correctly, when you do start adopting better habits, and you start implementing ways of moving more, what happens is our goal is to increase, if we can just increase the calories we burn by a few hundred per day. Now if you think about this, that right there is essentially a can of soda. So, it's not hard to negate a few hundred calories. However, if we're burning a few hundred extra calories more than we ever used to every day, over time, that makes a huge, every 3,600 calories above and beyond what we need becomes an extra pound of fat. So if we're burning a few extra calories throughout each day, it's going to help kind of keep everything in check there. Our whole goal with helping people learn these good habits is we want people to be able to eat the things they enjoy, to enjoy the foods that they can when they're doing their family get-togethers. But we want them also to understand how to do it and stay healthy, because it's possible. There's plenty of people that do it, and it's just because they have adopted different habits. We want to increase, we want to maintain our weight. We want to increase our flexibility and our mobility. As we get older, the two things that we have a tendency to lose is our flexibility. Flexibility plays a huge part in our balance and our mobility and strength as well. Those are a few of the things that we lose as we get older. So we want to make sure we maintain good flexibility, good strength, so we have good balance, so we're not tripping and falling and injuring ourselves. We want to build a healthier lifestyle, and then really just prepare for more vigorous activities. One of the things that, and this kind of leads into next week's lesson, there was, and I'll have to show the video next week. Chris found it for me. There was this elderly gal that she had never been in the gym a day in her life, and at the age of 75 or something like that, she saw some program that said, the way you prevent osteoporosis is by exercising. And this little old lady went on to win some weightlifting competition well into her 80s, and she had never even lifted a weight before then. So she learned to do something different, She prepared for a little bit more vigorous activity. But come next week, because the little video clip, it's hilarious. This little old gal that, how she talks about it. But there is nothing that we can't do, and it's never too late to get stronger, to get healthier, and to be able to do things that we once used to enjoy. Are there any questions as far as our non-exercise activity? No one ever has any questions. I need to make some questions up and hand them out so people ask me. I think I seriously might have to do that. Does anyone have a question? And then be like, number one. So, all right, well.
I think your haircut's neat.
All right, thanks, man. All right. Did you cut your hair, yours like mine or mine? Yeah.
I've been using your non-dominant hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I used my non-dominant hand to shave my head. That's what I do. So, all right. Well, listen. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for those who are joining us on the internet. But please continue to come out. I think one of the most powerful things about this class is it's a way for us to engage in our health. It's a way for us to get engaged in. We know that our system works well. We've helped hundreds and thousands of people, not us, across the country. We've helped hundreds and thousands of people get healthy and get to a healthy weight. Some of them with miraculous weight loss journeys and stories. And we know that when you plug into the tools, you're only going to get the results if you plug in. So we certainly encourage you and invite you to keep coming out. Come until you get to where you want to be. Come until you're confident that you know what you need to do to be able to get to a healthy weight and stay there. And then I still recommend you come out because it's good for other people to see your stories, to see what you've learned and see what you've done but when we plug in together, that's how we all become healthier. So please continue to come out, and thank you for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Same time, same